Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Jaxon Talks. Everybody, with me, your host, Jaxon Stone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in, my beautiful, lovely people who tune into this show every single week. This is everybody's hotline number 10. Wow, 10. Everybody's hotline number 10. And if you're unfamiliar with the hotline with Jaxon Talks, everybody, let me give you a quick rundown if you're a new listener. Everybody's hotline is a thing I started about 10 weeks ago, 11 weeks ago. And it's very simple. It's a hotline, right? I put a posted number on social media. I leave that number open for an hour while I'm recording this episode so people can call in, have conversations, connect, ask questions, dig a little bit deeper with me, with themselves, and it's just another open channel of communication. That's why I call it Everybody's Hotline. Big time branding there with everybody. Jaxon Talks, everybody. Jaxon Stone, everybody. Everybody's Hotline. Everybody's Land. All that merchandise can be found at jaxonstone.net. But for real, so this is the hotline portion of Jaxon Talks, everybody. The line is open from right now, which is 5:02 p.m. It went live at 5, and it'll end at 6 p.m. Central Time. And today's date is July 1st, 2021. I usually record episodes about 4 weeks in advance because I do post an episode every single Tuesday. And some weeks are busier than others. Some weeks I'm traveling. So I just like to make sure I have enough to post one episode a week. Eventually I'll get on that Joe Rogan rich roll level where I can post 2 to 3 to 4 a week. That would be awesome, and just have super in-depth, long-chain conversations with the most amazing people around the world. I'm already having really amazing conversations with really amazing people all across the world. And so that's really exciting. But this is a portion of the episode, or the Jaxon Talks, everybody, where I do this solo, hoping that people call in. Sometimes 0 people call in, sometimes a bunch of people call in. Depends on the night, depends on the vibe, and if nobody calls in, I'll have about 20 minutes of content to go over. If nobody calls in, this episode will be trimmed into 20 minutes. If people do call in, it might be 30 minutes, it might be 40 minutes, it might be an hour, just depending on the conversations, the connections, the questions, all that good stuff. And then also, if you're a new listener, I do have guests on this show as well. I'll have a guest, I have guests regularly. Sometimes they're wrestlers, athletes, friends, business people, just anyone that I can have a conversation with. I try to get on this pod, but I do pick my guests very carefully because I like to have deep, meaningful conversations. And so if people aren't willing to go to that route with me, then I tend to not have them on my pod because I want to go past the surface. I want to dive deeper into that level. And so the conversations that we have and the stories that we share and the resiliency that lies between the two of us during that conversation can be resonated with the people that listen to the show, which is really what it's all about. The people that listen to the show, people that come back every single week, that's what it's all about. Hopefully it resonates with them and what they're going through in their life, and that we can help them and guide them through those challenges through our conversations. And then I do solo episodes as well, which are usually 15 to 30 minutes long, about either a topic that I'm studying or something that I'm interested in or something that happened in the news or mental health related. This podcast is very heavily related to mental health and those kinds of things, and personal relationships and connections and people's stories, because the more we share, the more we feel less alone, the more we feel less alone, the more we feel connected, the more we feel connected, the more we can try to understand each other. And the more we can understand each other, the more unity there is. And the more unity is, the more health and happiness there is, more health and happiness, and then everyone's fulfilled and prosperous, and that's where all the beauty lies. And I think that's possible as long as we're working together. So that's about a little nutshell of what I do on this podcast. And if you want to learn more about me specifically, if you're new, you don't understand why I'm talking about the things I talk about, you can go to jaxonstone.net. You'll find some information about me there. Or you can go to youarelovedlife.com. That's my mental health nonprofit. And there's a bio on there as well about some of the things that I've been through, who I am, what I'm about, what I do. And if you go to my Instagram, you can check out my link tree which gives you a rundown of pretty much everything that I'm about and what I do. And it all centers around love and empathy and connection. And so that's what I'm about. So thanks for being here. If you're a new listener, thanks for being here. If you're a continued supporter of Jaxon Talks, everybody, you know how much I love you. Send me a DM after this about what you thought, or if you have any questions, guests, recommendations, topics you want me to cover, anything, please hit me up. I want to hear from you. I want to make this show tailored to my audience and the people that listen. So cheers. Thank you. All right. And generally how I start all of my episodes, especially if I have a guest, is I ask them the question, how are you? Like, how are you for real, for real? And I think that's such an important question because every day in our lives, we use it as a way to say hello instead of a real way to ask how we're actually doing. And so I like to open that chain of conversation with my guests with that question. So hopefully they feel comfortable enough to answer that question honestly and openly and responsibly, of course. And then we can kind of go from there in terms of that question. But the guests I have are so great. And so they generally open up and feel comfortable with me or feel comfortable sharing just in general. So that's always a really good path to start our conversations on. So when I do solo episodes, when I do hotline episodes, I like to ask that question now. So I urge you to pause this episode wherever you are and to check in with yourself. Take a little bit of an inventory or an audit about what's going on in your life. What do you need more of? What do you need less of? How are you feeling? What's been weighing on you? Things of that nature. Take a little inventory. Ask yourself, how am I doing for real? What do I need if I'm feeling bad? What do I need to continue doing if I'm feeling great? And then also add 3 to 5 things that you're truly grateful for, especially if we're not feeling well, right? There's always that light at the end of the tunnel. There's always good things to be appreciative of, even when we're feeling down, and those can help us lift us back up. So write 3 to 5 things that you're truly grateful for. Feel them in your gut, feel them in your body. And then find 2 to 3 things that you're really proud of yourself for doing the last couple weeks. Either it's really proud of today, the last week, the last 2 weeks, whatever. Find 2 to 3 things that you're really, really proud of yourself for doing. Take a moment to congratulate yourself for that. Take a moment to tell yourself that you're proud of me. Take a moment to tell yourself that you're checking in. I don't even know that something fell from the ceiling. I don't know. Anyways, take a moment there to just pat yourself on the back and give yourself credit for where you might have been last week, where you are this week, and where you are today, because it's different than where you were before, and you're appreciative of being here in this moment, and I'm appreciative of you listening to this and giving me your time. So I say, stop this right now, give yourself a pat on the back, and then when you're done with that, put your right hand on your chest, on your heart, and say, I am exactly where I am meant to be. I am exactly where I am meant to be. And take 3 deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. I'm going to do one as an example. I am exactly where I'm meant to be. Do that 3 times through, and then we're done with that. Come back to me, and I got a little bit more to talk about. So, I recently posted a thread on Twitter about self-love. I posted it on LinkedIn as well. Follow me on those channels for more cool stuff. But self-love is a topic that's heavily talked about on social media. There's a lot of narrative behind it, and I just want to make a few things clear about the topic of self-love. Self-love is extremely important. It's a secret unlock to life, to truly love ourselves and appreciate ourselves. Because the most important relationship we have is the one with ourselves. But for the majority of us, we come from a place of self-hatred or low self-esteem. And so starting from that place of low self-esteem or self-hatred and completely turning the page over to self-love is extremely challenging. And it seems daunting and impossible for most of us Because if we've lived our lives, if we've lived our whole lives thinking that we're not good enough, or we don't like ourselves, or the majority of us is not good, if we've lived our lives in a low self-esteem, self-hate mind frame, then just having someone tell you to love yourself seems daunting and overwhelming and absolutely completely absurd. And so we just have to start stitching together little pieces that allow us to get into the process of self-love, because the process of self-love is a whole lifelong journey. I truly love myself. I appreciate a lot of aspects about me, but some days I wake up and I'm like, oh, this sucks, that sucks. And then I bring myself back to and start to find 1-2 things that I do like about myself, and I start to build on that. So if you are coming from a place of self-hate or low self-esteem, or just generally not a fan of what you see in the mirror, yes, self-love is the end goal. That's a journey, that's a process. But it's really that what you think you see, what the winner or the best self-love person looks like, they're still struggling, right? They're still finding things, new challenges every day about loving themselves. They're still finding that every day is not the same, that it's a process, it's a lifelong journey of loving yourself. But you have to make the commitment while you're in the self-hate, low self-esteem mind frame to start stitching together and bridging together these things that could allow you to truly appreciate the person you are, because you're much more amazing, unique, creative, fun, loving, sexy than you give yourself credit for. And so I think that if you start with looking at yourself, finding something about you that you sort of don't hate, right? That you sort of don't hate, that you're like, that's okay. Find that part and build from there. You're not going to go from self-hate to self-love overnight, but you can go from self-hate to, okay, to I'm not the worst, to, it's kind of cool, to a little bit of love, right? And then you start stitching that. That's the pattern we can go to, and that's the words we can say to ourselves, because self-talk is important. Self-talk is important. Positive affirmations are important. The way we talk to ourselves is important. The relationship we have with ourselves is the most important, but we have to talk to ourselves in a credible manner. The brain knows when you're lying. Sometimes it's okay to do that, to kind of flip the switch and, to kind of give yourself a shock, to tell yourself these things that could be meaningful and powerful in the moment, especially when we're spiraling and feeling really bad. But for the most part, you want to have credible self-talk. And credible self-talk is taking it one step at a time. Taking it one step at a time from some low self-esteem to self-hate to all the way through those stages to loving ourselves. And then when we feel like we get to the end, or we feel like we've reached a pinnacle, new challenges arise, new things arise. It's a day-to-day, everyday process, lifelong journey of loving ourselves and really appreciating who we are as a person, how amazing our mind and body is, how amazing we are to be living and alive and breathing and moving and walking, and all of these things we'll start to really appreciate as we move through this self-love journey, because we'll start to heal trauma, we'll start to recognize negative patterns, we'll start to recognize programming that may have caused us to think this way, we'll start to recognize all of these things in this journey. But it starts with realizing and being aware that I'm in this mind frame of self-hate, low self-esteem, that it is possible. It is possible to get to a place of self-love, but it's a day-to-day process of peaks and valleys to try to get there. And it's not going to go from one end of the spectrum to the next. You're not going to just jump over the big body of water to get to the other side. You're going to walk or crawl or jog or shuffle across this bridge to get to the point where you need to be. But that process in the middle is hard. Healing is hard. There's going to be some really painful moments. There's really honest looks at yourself that you have to look at and be like, that's tough. But you have to keep moving through that. Keep moving through that responsibly and openly and honestly until you get all the way across. And then you keep going. And then you keep showing up for yourself. And then in that process, in that play, you can then show up even more authentically and with more space for other people in your life, for relationships, for friendships, for family, for work. All of these things start to open and new windows start to open when we start feeling this gratitude for ourselves and appreciation for what's around us, and start finding all of these other things. So that's what I want to say about that, about self-love. And so I wrote a tweet about it thread on Twitter. Check it out, or on LinkedIn. Both places are good spots to follow me at. I'm very active on Twitter. It's probably my favorite platform, but I'm trying to get more active on LinkedIn because I think it could be really cool. It's a really cool platform, and I'm trying to get my mental performance coaching out there. And so I think that's a good spot for me to implement that on. So follow me there, or hit me up, ask me questions about it, about this kind of process of self-love. If you need more tips, tools, resources, books that I've read, classes that I've taken, in terms of getting me to the point where I'm at right now, I can totally give you those resources. Or you can keep listening to me, and that's great too. Yeah, all right. A couple more things I want to talk about. That's another like heavily discussed topic on social media, is like passion and finding your purpose. Those are hard. Finding your purpose is hard. It doesn't just happen. You just wake up one day when you feel like an adult, and you hit 18 or you hit 21, and you're like, bam, that's my purpose. It doesn't happen like that. It happens through a lot of self-discovery, through a lot of experiences, through just a lot of work and time, and trusting that the universe is putting you in the right spot to be available for the thing that is yours, right? We're put on this earth, and we're very special, but we're meant to do that one thing. And it may take us 70 years to find that one thing, and then we fucking crush it. Or it may take us 10 years, 5 years, 15, but you will find that thing that you're special at doing, and that's your purpose, right? But there's a path to kind of finding that. There's some things that you can implement in your life to facilitate that growth on finding your purpose. And one of those things is curiosity. What are you curious about? What are you really curious about? And so I urge you right now to write some things down. Write some things down in a notebook, in your phone, things that you're curious about. Anything. You're curious about plants, turtles, space, arts and crafts, the trombone, ping pong, curious about hats or merchandise or the stock market or real estate or building homes or construction or welding or tennis or anything. What are you curious about? Like, what do you see or hear out in the world of social media or in the world in general or I feel like I'm sweating. Am I sweating? I don't know. Anyways, I feel like I'm sweating. It's that passion running through me. Woo! And it's this mully. Can I get a little respect for the mully? I mean, baseball season's over, but I am growing this out until it's not appropriate anymore, and I don't know when that's gonna be, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it, and I'm just feeling it. It was a great decision to go to a mullet, so I thank my baseball team, my 13-year-old baseball team, for encouraging me to go this route. Now this is going to be a lifelong haircut, and so cheers to that. All right, anyway, so curiosity, right? First step, or a step. It doesn't have to be your first step. It's just a step in trying to figure out what your purpose or your passions might be. And so write down all these things that you're curious about, and then dive deeper into some of the ones that stand out to you. Dive deeper into, you wrote a list, dive deeper into the ones that like really catch your eye, like, ooh, that seems, like it's like, like when you're going down the list, it kind of pops out at you, right? You wrote it down, so you know it's there, but you're kind of like re-going through the list, and it's like, oh, what might that be? You know what I mean? And so then I challenge you to then go listen to some podcasts about it. Go watch some YouTube videos about it. Find a course about it. Find an online class about it. Find an event in your area about 2, 3, 4 of these topics and go to them. And then find where those things that you're curious about overlap. Like, where do they overlap? What's the overlap of that? And then go and experience those things. So your first steps are, 1, trying to get uncomfortable with yourself and with your life, with people, with places, with things. Get uncomfortable with that. Find new things to do that you're curious about, that you haven't taken a deeper dive into, and then go experience those things in a class, in a podcast, in a book, whatever, and then find where kind of some of those curiosities and those experiences overlap. Like, where do they overlap? And then that's kind of where your passion lies, right? A couple curiosities, a couple things that you have interest in start to overlap. That's where your passion lies. So that's where your passion is. You're passionate about something. Now go dig deeper into that, and then find your purpose through that. And your purpose is kind of something bigger than yourself, right? Something bigger than yourself, something that's of service to other people, something that you're passionate about is of service to other people, right? That's your purpose. That's kind of the chain of events you can follow when trying to figure out your purpose. I'm not going to say that it's going to work, but through these experiences, through your curiosity, through your experiences, through these classes and events and courses and meeting new people, you're going to find stuff that you do like. You're going to find something you don't like. You're going to start to unravel a bit more about yourself to discover who you are on an authentic basis. And then that's easy to discover that what your passion is, because it sparks you. You have this butterfly in your stomach. It ignites something in you that you haven't felt before, that maybe you felt before when you were playing or doing something that you kind of lost, because now you're an adult, you can't play as much. We can't forget to play. So what is it that you were as a kid that you loved and now you're curious about, you kind of forgot about, and you're experiencing now as an adult, and you're turning that into where they overlap into a passion, and then you're finding what that passion can be tweaked into a purpose, and you're turning that purpose into your life, into your job, and you're turning into a paycheck. And so that you can live out your purpose and live meaningfully and fulfilled, while also doing the things you want to do, feeding your family, taking trips, hanging out with friends. All of these things, they cost money, right? So we need that. But why not live that life that we love, doing what we love? And there's ways to find it, because passion is the focused, mechanism, right? And so that's kind of what I have to say about that. And so I think that's important to understand. What's also important to understand is what motivates us. Is it intrinsically or extrinsically? Those are internal motivation or external motivation. And usually when we're working in our purpose and we're purpose driven and we have a purpose and we're living by our core values, that is so much intrinsically motivated that nothing can stop us. Extrinsic motivation or external motivation is sex, fame, money, things, possessions, right? These things motivate us. And extrinsic motivation isn't all bad, but we want to be more intrinsically motivated, because that's where the deep desire and burn comes from, to get up every day and do the work and strive to be better and challenge ourselves and change the course of our lives and in turn other people's lives. That's how we get intrinsically motivated. That's the intrinsic motivation. And what's important to realize is that extrinsic motivation is generally what gets us off the starting block, right? We have this thing we want to do because it's going to make us money. That's our intrinsic motivation, because we gotta feed our family, or we gotta get out of this place. We gotta do better for ourselves, for our kids, for whatever the reason is. That's an extrinsic motivation, and that's a perfectly great motivation to get you off the starting blocks. To get you off the starting blocks, to pump you up and to get you going in the direction that you need to be going so you can do what you need to do. That's an extrinsic motivator. But once we start going, we start rolling, we have to find out what those intrinsic motivators are to keep us going through the tough times. We had the external motivator to get us off the starting block. Fucking great. Brilliant. Now you're moving. Now you're getting 1% better every day because you decided to get up and do it. You were motivated extrinsically. But now we're in the midst of it. And it's heavy and it's deep. And we gotta be intrinsically motivated at that point. That's where our curiosities come in. That's where autonomy and mastery and purpose and passion come in. Do you have all of those things in this life that you're trying to live? Right? Because as intrinsic motivation goes up, extrinsic motivation goes down. And what that means is when we have so much intrinsic motivation, we're detached from the outcome. We're in love with the process. We're in love with just being. We're just living out this purpose. And we're in love with the service it gives and how we help people, what it makes people feel. And as you detach from the outcome and get more intrinsically motivated, it just so happens that the universe rewards you extrinsically, so that you have all of these things that you can do and give to be more of a service and more of an influence. But we really want to start diving deep into our intrinsic motivation. And that all starts with curiosity. It starts with, what are you curious about? What are you curious about? I want you to ask yourself that today, right now, when this episode is over. What are you curious about? What experiences have you had in the past or that you've seen or looked at that kind of get you going a little bit, that get your rocks off? You're interested. There's a little twinkle in your eye. Follow those. Follow that curiosity. Follow that experience. And then where does that overlap in your life? Where do things overlap? Where's the passion? Find it. And then curate that into your purpose. And then use extrinsic motivation to get you off the blocks. And then find what the intrinsic motivation is to keep you going, to detach from the outcome, to fall in love with the process, and allow your life to fall in place where you need to be. Like we said at the beginning, hand over heart, I am exactly where I'm meant to be. That's what this is for. That's what this is about. You're finding your purpose, and you're aligning your intrinsic motivation, and you're living the life that you know you can live because it's inside of you. It's inside of you. Just like the journey to self-love, this is the same journey. Giving yourself credit along the way, patting yourself on the back, celebrating the little wins, and knowing that inside of you is a special, amazing, beautiful, creative, fantastic human being that can achieve exactly what you're meant to achieve. And that's by exploring and investigating what you like. And that's what I have to say about that. Hopefully that made sense to you. Hopefully you wrote a few things down, and when you turn this episode off, you can go dig a little bit deeper about what that might mean to you in your life, in your space, in your area where you are at. And so, because I've done this work, I'm doing this work about this stuff, and that's why I want to talk to you about it. Hopefully it resonates, and you can feel the same kind of joy and fulfillment that I'm feeling every time I talk to you, every time I have a client, every time I make a post, every time I do anything circled around the stuff that I'm doing. I feel this type of energy flow through me, and I want you to feel that too, that purpose, that sense of fulfillment, that love, that joy. And so thank you for watching. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for the community. We got some really cool guests coming up, some more solo episodes, hotlines, all this good stuff. So leave us a review on Apple. It'd be awesome if you like this episode. Go give us a review on Apple. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify. Go to jaxontalkseverybody.com for all the future or all the past episodes. This episode is 59. So we got 58 other episodes that you can listen to. And again, if you have any comments, questions, concerns about me, about the guests, recommendations, topics, anything like that, shoot them my way, DM me. There's a comment button on jaxontalkseverybody.com where I'll see your note and I can reply back to you. But thank you for listening. The hotline will be open for another 30 minutes. As you could tell during this, no one called in yet, but it'll be open for another 30 minutes. And so I might have some conversations then to add on to this back half of this episode. But if not, this is the end. Shout out to Ben for editing. He's a rock star. And shout out to you guys for listening. So cheers. Have a great night, day, evening, mid-morning, wherever you are. Much love. Thank you.